Welcome, everyone, to Esports Ed, the podcast all about starting, running your own esports program. My name is Josh Knutson. I'm your host, ByteSpeed's esports director and former head coach at the University of Jamestown. Notebooks out, people. Classes in session. Today's special guest is my good friend. He's the head coach, program director, recruiter extraordinaire from Shawnee State University in Portsmouth, Ohio. Please welcome to the show, Kyle Trapp.
Hey, everybody, it's me. I'm here.
Welcome to the show, Kyle.
Yeah,
Thanks for being here.
I'm pumped. I'm excited to be here. I really am.
Awesome. Yeah, we're excited to have you. Kyle's been a good friend of mine for a number of years. He runs a great program at SSU, and he's here for a reason. Today's special topic is recruiting, and Kyle is well-versed in that background. So before we dive into the main topic for today, Kyle, how about you tell us how you got involved with esports? How did you get started at SSU?
Yeah, absolutely. So about 3.5 years ago, the president at the time came to me, and we were talking about esports as a future project that we wanted to bring on for a actual varsity program. So I met with the athletic director. Before I know it, I'm meeting with department heads, and then all of a sudden I'm in front of our board pitching how beneficial esports will be. And then about a month later, I'm meeting with students, and then all of a sudden they say, hey, get a program started. So I'm given 9 months to finish everything, and here we are today. So it was a very hectic 9 months. I don't recommend that to anybody. So hopefully we can ease this up a little better for everyone. So
definitely. Yeah. It's all about getting the resources in the right hands and doing all of that to make sure that you're off on the right foot. So what was your relationship with the university before, becoming the lead on the esports program?
So I attended Shawnee State University when I was in college. I went there for 3.5 years, had a knee injury, transferred out, and finished up at Full Sail University. Then I came back, just back in the area, and reconnected with a lot of people, and then just all kind of snowballed into what it is, and it's been great. I couldn't have imagined it. If you would have told me 5 years ago that esports would be a career option and you would be leading a program or even have the opportunity to recruit international or just recruit and set up a program around the world, I'd say you're crazy. But it's growing so quickly, and it's incredible. Yeah,
absolutely. A lot of us have different ways that we get involved with esports, but it all kind of comes back to that next train forward. So it's kind of cool to see, everybody's background and their relationship with esports moving into their programs. So let's dive in with the main topic for today. That is recruiting. To have a program, you got to have students, and how do you find those students? That's a question that we hear all the time as program directors. How do you recruit for esports? It's that big, giant question that looms over it. So, Kyle, how about you, take us through the recruiting process of an esports athlete? You've got a great background with admissions and some recruiting all over the place. So can you expand on that and kind of let us know what that typical process looks like?
Yeah, so basically from day one, let's say you have a program, no students on board at all, you're going to be finding students. So your main goal is to see what is available on campus, finding the culture. I tell everybody that and they think I'm crazy, but if you're a film school, you're going to be more based on having film students. Shawnee State, I was very lucky that it is nothing but a gaming school. We have a big gaming conference every year. We graduate a good amount of kids that go to jobs. We have put people with Sony, Epic, Microsoft. We just sent a couple of young men to the Air Force. So it's very exciting, just we're just sending kids everywhere. But like I said, the culture at Shawnee was gaming, and there was already a huge gaming community. For example, your club teams, I know we have a TESPA chapter now. Some schools have TESPA chapters, and people don't even know that. This is all run by students. It's a great time. That's a great way to pull students from there who are interested. And those kids are already competing in the TESPA tournaments that, for example, Josh was competing in with Jamestown. We compete at Shawnee State. Just very exciting that they're still familiar with what the format's going to be, and they can actually teach you a lot more. Obviously, when you start the esports program, you're going to start bringing interest. For me, I started going to all of our local high schools. Started from the ground up, going to middle schools, and then I was meeting with freshmen. And then before I know it, I'm meeting with seniors and groups of seniors of about 400 people. And, showing that, hey, gaming is now an option. You can come to school to play games and be very good at that. And there's a good amount of notoriety up there, scholarships as well, and even, sponsorship opportunities. I know I've had multiple students who have pursued that as well.
Sure. So,
Yeah.
how do you recruit the esports athlete? I mean, it's the differences between traditional athletics are kind of all over the place, but there's some commonalities.
Yeah.
But when you're going to go look at a football player, you're going to go on Friday night, you're going to go to that high school, you're going to watch the kid play.
Yeah.
It's harder to do that for esports. So can you kind of take us through, how do you scout an esports player? How do you recruit them, from step A to step B to all the way down to getting them to sign a deposit and come to your school?
For us, for example, we do a ton of open workouts throughout the year. Just invite students. We go to like the high school esports league. If you're in Ohio, there's the Ohio Esports League. There's Esports Labs. There is the CCL. There are a ton of just additional programs out there that you can reach out to. And once you're there, you can actually start to meet these students and talk to them and find their interest. And then for me personally, I've jumped on and played a couple of games with some kids before, just done it to see how it's going. Or I've had some of the actual current players or current club members play with these students and send them, hey, this kid's really worth looking at. And then you start looking at that. And then there's the international aspect that we will touch on here very shortly, but that is one of the most challenging aspects that you'll find, and I'll explain that later.
Yeah.
But for me, it was that, and like you said, you go to, when it's a football player, you actually send film. That's very familiar with this. I have a ton of students who send gameplay. Almost everybody streams nowadays, so you can tune into a stream and watch a kid play. And you're going to know from that point, putting the effort in and making the contact with the students and letting them know you're interested and you're invested in what they have to do. That's one of the best things that you can do. And then getting them to sign, for us, it's a letter of intent, just saying, hey, you're going to come here and all that. And getting to that point is really exciting as well because you've met them. I've talked to a lot of parents as well. That's another big thing. I've actually kind of told people that you almost are recruiting parents as well. You're explaining to them that this is not basketball, this is not soccer. They're still going to come to Shawnee State. For us, for example, our GPA requirement is very high. We are one of the highest sports on campus. Our GPA requirement, it's a 2.5 right now, and we're pushing to move that to a 2.8 or maybe even a 3.0.
That's awesome.
That's what we're pursuing at because I want them to understand they're student athletes first. I mean, you're a student and then you're an athlete, but you're there to get a degree, and then we can help get everything out there for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Very cool. Talking more just kind of generalized recruiting for esports. There's a lot of different tools out there, a lot of different databases, resources. Can you talk about, just the different things that are out there when, I've got a brand new program. I don't know where to start. What's worked for you? Can you talk about highs and lows in that aspect?
Lows for me have actually been going to statistic boards because I've noticed that a lot of accounts can either be boosted.
Yeah.
Or they are just an additional account that someone has that they're working to get it up, and the stats they're showing are not what's reflecting on them. If they have streams available, that is one of the best tools I've had is being able to actually interact with them during the stream, watching them play, or even just sitting in the background and just as a viewer watching how they handle stressful situations or just handling additional things. From playing games for years like I have, a background for myself is I did play some competitive games back in the day, won a couple of district tournaments and some things like that, but nothing like any of these current students that I have. It's incredible. Seeing that, one of the other things is making a contact through High School Esports League, working with those directors, finding just great high schools as well. A lot of guidance counselors have started pitching this. I know, for example, local to us is Northwest High School, and they have actually started setting labs up and transitioning into esports, that's something that will be happening in the very, very near future. I see happening nationwide.
Absolutely.
There's just teams, from high schools that you won't be able to pull from, but you'll be very familiar with just traditional athletics, like you were saying, where similarities are there.
Definitely. Yeah. It's kind of the movement, especially at the high school level. It's sweeping the nation right now. You mentioned High School Esports League. They've been around for many years, kind of at the club level, trying to get things up and running. There's other leagues out there like Play Versus and Legacy Esports that are doing things kind of in that space. There's a lot of potential, a lot of recruits, and a lot of opportunity to build a program with some high quality kids. So lots of places to look for.
A couple of the other ones I have is like UEL, like I said, Esports Ohio, CCL, and then there's even a new one that I just joined. Oh yeah, Skillshot. Skillshot's actually been doing a huge thing as well. Yeah, and that's that's Smite and Paladins. I mean, that's incredible. So
yeah, absolutely. Lots of different potential and a lot of different ways to pull students from. So great. So yeah, this has been awesome. You mentioned some international recruiting. That's topic number 2 for today. So we're going to take a quick break. You'll hear from our sponsors, and then we'll dive back in with how do you recruit students from overseas and places not actually in the United States. So stay tuned. Esports Ed will be right back after this. Esports Ed is brought to you by Respawn. Respawn Products is a leading gaming furniture company that makes quality products at an accessible price point for all gamers. They believe that every gamer, regardless of their preferred game, genre, or style of play, should be empowered by their gaming setup. With decades of expertise in the commercial furniture industry, Respawn confidently offers a limited lifetime warranty and expert customer support for all of their products. We thank you, Respawn, for your sponsorship of Esports Ed. Now, back to the show. Welcome back, everyone, to Esports Ed, the podcast that's going to school you in how to run your esports program, whether that be high school or college. Today, we're here with Kyle Trapp. He's the head coach at Shawnee State University. We're talking recruiting. We just got done kind of talking about the generalized aspects of recruiting the esports athlete, but Kyle's got kind of an interesting background and has some great experiences that we're going to draw from on the international recruiting side. So, Kyle, first and foremost, why should your esports team care about recruiting international athletes?
Well, most colleges already have established international programs. I know for Shawnee State we have a very active one, and that was something I wanted to build on. We were bringing soccer players in, we've brought basketball players in, baseball players in the past, but why not esports? For example, in China, it is incredibly big right now. I didn't expect it to be as big as it was until I was there this past year, and it's incredible.
Yeah.
On a new level that you can't even think of. I mean, one of the cities we were in, Nanchang, is building a full functioning VR amusement park right now.
Wow.
It has nothing but a whole esports tournament set around it that will run weekly,
That's
year
awesome.
long. It's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, you're already seeing these students come onto your campus. Why not move into esports? So, okay, I'm going to walk up to a brand new head coach and I'm going to say, hey, recruit some international students. That's a daunting question.
Yeah.
So where do you start when it comes to international recruiting? Is there kind of a standard process to that?
Not really. It's so everyone does their own little thing. Advice I give you will be completely different from someone who's been doing it for 20 plus years. The success that I've had is working directly with agencies, King's Talent, Lumen Education. There's multiple other ones that I've actually worked with, and there's a ton out there. And most are actually branching out into esports right now. You'll see a huge influx from, Europe, Asia, anywhere really. It's insane, just the amount of time and effort. And that's the other thing, is making sure you have the time committed to this, because basically recruiting an international is going to be anywhere from 5 months at the earliest, but you're looking at roughly 8 months the whole time of getting visas set up, making sure everything's good to go. Challenge from China right now is making sure they have everything in order and making sure the government will let everyone go, making sure they're passing interviews and anything and everything as well. That's a huge challenge you're going to see, but understanding it's there, and most of the time your schools already have an established program with your international director saying, hey, do we have this? Most athletic programs are already adding kids, and it's all going to be there. It's a lot of work, but the rewards are awesome. I really, really enjoy it.
Definitely. Can you expand a little bit on what those agencies do for some of our listeners who might not know?
So a lot of the agencies are actually meeting with these kids who have ambitions to come to the U.S. to study, to come to college, do anything and everything. Lumen Education, for example, they go from day one making sure placements are done, making sure they have access to the best schools available to them within their means, how much money they can put forward, how soon they can get there. I know they've sent kids anywhere from a month to 14 months. That's just one example there. Talent as well holds multiple open workouts for soccer throughout the year. Same things are going to be happening with esports. You're going to see a lot of open, workout type things, tournaments where you can actually tune in and check these kids out and
Sure.
make contact with them right then and there. Their main goal is to make sure that these students know what's available to them and what's going to benefit them the best.
Gotcha. So yeah, it's just forming that partnership between the school and the player, kind of doing the scouting end of things where you might not have the resources to pick up and go to Europe for 2 months or, make a trip to China.
Yeah.
So, and you mentioned some of the hurdles and some of the challenges that are associated with recruiting internationally. Can you kind of go through like the main hurdles that you see, kind of the big issues that come up with every student?
Well, the main thing is everyone's always concerned about the language barrier. Is that going to be effective? At Shawnee State, they have to pass with a certain score on a TOEFL. Most of the time, that is how well they can read English, how well they can speak English, understand it, and communicate within everyone around campus. Different schools have different scores, and different requirements for that. There's that, as well as what degree they want to do. For me, it's always, okay, you want to come here, but what do you want to career-wise? And that's, for us, we have the game design program that we're always bringing kids. We have the plastics program that we're bringing kids in for that as well. So they're always interested in that, just making sure there's there. If it's a medical school, you're always looking at that as well. Making sure they understand that, they're there for a degree. That's one of the main hurdles. Another hurdle is their workload. For example, from China, they're used to taking anywhere from 18 to 25 credit hours a semester. And that is something that they're very used to that because it's how the society is.
Right.
And they can, cram a lot of work done. It's insane because I know when I had Zia with the first semester she was in, she was taking 23 credit hours. It was insane.
Wow. That's incredible. Well, yeah, a lot of the same types of scenarios that you run into with domestic students. So there's a lot of parallels between the two. And like you said, the benefit of getting an international student, that's huge. So definitely some cool things going on.
Yeah.
With your experiences and kind of being able to recruit internationally successfully, do you have a favorite story that you would want to share for our listeners?
Yeah, probably my most recent one. When we went to China just to make the contact, this was my second trip to China of my whole life. The first time I was there, I was a student ambassador. Another story for another day. But this was definitely, as an adult going there, things had changed drastically since then. Meeting these students there for the first time, and there was a young man named Jairi that I was in contact with before I left. And when he came in, my first introduction to Jairi was he had a Nintendo Switch, was playing Rocket League. And then the whole time that I'm giving a presentation, he is switching games nonstop the whole time. And then by the end, he has won every single game he's played.
Oh my gosh.
He's been excited to come to Shawnee State, and he's really looking forward to it. So I'm excited to get Jairi here.
Very cool.
But yeah,
very cool.
That's probably one of my favorites. When I played soccer, there was multiple internationals that came in. I have a very good friend of mine from England. One of the things that I've pulled off of is a lot of old college experiences I've had. Whether it's England, whether it's Brazil, being able to communicate with Tomas or Seth and just saying, hey, is there anything I need to look out for when I'm talking to certain students? And that's been a huge key for me. So if you have that background from any sports or any friends in that, that's a huge plus to tap into and utilize at the same time.
Yeah, definitely. Leverage the resources that you have and use your existing students as people that you can bounce ideas off and say, hey, do you know anybody from back home? A lot of the times that's how connections are made. That goes for international, domestic, kids right in your backyard even. So a lot of similarities.
And that's the one thing, you make one contact with with a kid, for example, send them a t-shirt. I mean, they're a walking billboard for Shawnee State or whatever your school is.
Definitely.
Even if they don't ever come, there's people now seeing, okay, Shawnee State, and they're going to look into Shawnee State or look into whatever your school is going to be. And, like I said, a walking billboard to just communicate
yeah,
and show off. And that's, you never know what you can get from that.
Right. Yeah. Spread the word, see what you can do. And this might be a kind of a question that we can touch on in a bit too, but when the cost of international recruiting might be a little bit different, can you expand on kind of the differences between domestic and international when it comes to tuition, resources that you have to use to be able to get a recruit from overseas?
For me, I work directly with a lot of departments. For me, it's international department, admissions, everything. I don't want to start giving prices out or anything. I don't want to, do anything of that sort. But definitely work with them to see. International prices are going to be much different from an in-state tuition. Maybe sometimes you can get a waiver for an in-state tuition to get that kid to say yes, or an out-of-state tuition. I mean, you never know. There's multiple options available. It just depends on your school and what resources you have. Scholarships available as well. Sponsors, for example, we have a couple that have actually gave money to get international students here. So So that's been a couple of things we've worked on, having access to that. It's very exciting, but definitely tap into as many resources as you can. A lot of directors will tell you just work within the campus as well. Don't try to put any walls up and try to, no pun intended or anything, but don't put walls up to just separate departments or anything. Work as a cohesive unit to get students there. For example, I can communicate with someone in admissions, someone in athletics, and someone in financial aid all within a 20-minute period and get an answer for a student within 20 minutes to make sure they understand everything that's going on.
Yeah, definitely. My old admissions department, my VP at Jamestown, he used to say that recruiting is a team sport. It takes more than just the coach to get a kid to go from prospect to actually showing up in the fall. So yeah, definitely use the resources, use the people on your campus to your advantage. One person that has contact with that student might change the difference in them deciding to come or go. So it's a team sport, it's a team effort, and you can accomplish a lot of great things with the help of a couple people.
And letting people know in admissions, the recruiters that are going out and that's their job is to get students there, letting them know you're available to answer any and all questions at that time. I don't know how many times I've been sitting at home and I've got a phone call from, Justin, for example, who is at a school in Akron talking over something going on and, being able to give a little bit of advice, just being available when you can. Now, don't go out of your means and say, I'm going to be available 24 hours a day because everyone's human and you can't do that. Like, you have to step back every now and then.
For sure. Awesome. Well, this has been super great. We're going to take one more quick break. We're going to hear from our sponsors one more quick time, and then we'll be back with some listener-submitted questions for Kyle that range from recruiting all the way to other facets of esports. So we'll be right back. This is Esports Ed. Once again, we'd like to thank our sponsor, Respawn. Respawn products gaming chairs are designed to match every gamer's needs, whether it's an extended session for a charity marathon, a quick match, or browsing Twitch. Respawn Products gaming chairs are fully customizable, including adjustable seat configurations, a variety of personalized colors, and custom embroidery options. Respawn Products gaming chairs address 3 key customer requirements: comfort, style, and value. A perfect balance of form and function, these products are built with the gamer in mind. Respawn chairs are designed to suit all of a gamer's needs and have a number of adjustable features to make the chair customizable to the individual size and preferred positioning. Thanks again to Respawn for sponsoring Esports Ed. Welcome back, everybody. It's Esports Ed. Class is still in session. We're back for segment number 3 with Kyle Trapp, the head coach at Shawnee State University in Portsmouth, Ohio. This is the segment where we ask questions that you submit. So if you're a listener to Esports Ed, you want to know more, feel free to send us your questions at podcast@bytespeed.com. Feel free to send anything esports related over. We'll have our guests each week answer those questions and we'll get some great feedback. So Kyle, first question for you submitted by our listeners. How did your first year go when you were starting the team, and how was your experience different in years 2 and 3?
Wow, the first year was a lot of ups and downs, a lot of changes on the fly that you just have to adjust to. Not getting discouraged and just staying confident the whole time. You come in with this game plan you want to do as much as you can, but you understand within a realm of possibility what you can do. There's only 24 hours in a day. So that was one of the biggest ups and downs, great moments, some even hectic moments. Having to go to a meeting to talk about something again when you can't be at practice was another big issue that I had. But that's changed around completely from this year. Year 2 was a lot more smooth. And then, this is technically going into year 3, but I'm calling this year 2 because this is the first full varsity. This is definitely, I'm looking forward to this fall. There's so many different changes we've changed. Practice schedule has changed completely now. And that's something that you'll have to learn to adjust with. I mean, you can touch base on that.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to fit the window for your students, yourself, depending on what other job you have, because not all of us are full-time. A lot of us come from other backgrounds at the schools. There's a growing movement for full-time coaches, which is great, but you have to be flexible and you got to make it work in those first couple of years. That's great to hear that things are smoothing out, and I'm excited to see what you guys can accomplish. Question number 2. What type of recruiting goal did you start with, and how has that changed or adapted moving into additional years?
My recruiting goal was not set by me. Our our president came to me and said, your recruiting goal is 75 kids.
Oh.
So add that into the 9-month hectic struggle. But just if you are ever presented with that opportunity, let them know that no, because you're not going to go crazy. Because if you're starting brand new and you're saying, all right, we're starting this program, we need to do this, just go for it. Just get as many kids as you can within your realm of possibility. If it's one game, that's completely fine.
Yeah.
You don't have to come out of the gate doing 6-7 games. Do whatever your community is. If it's a huge Rocket League community, if it's a huge Smash Brothers community, or even League of Legends, that's what you can tap into and really, really work
Right.
with. Oh, the other thing is just the recruiting aspect and ideas that I started with was just on the ground, constant communication, communicating with kids, making contact, doing the ground labor, having phone calls multiple times of the day. That was a lot of what I did, meeting with students who are currently on campus, and some of those even being seniors.
Absolutely. Question number 3. Is recruiting for esports all similar, or are there differences for individual games?
Differences for individual games. For me, you can say, oh, I'm going off a skill base completely, and that's great. But if the student is not well with working with others, you're just going to create chaos that will blow up before you know it. Individual games, for example, Smash Brothers or anything. For us, we were very lucky to have a huge Smash community on campus, and meeting with kids who were always in the weeklies and then monthlies, and just going back and forth and just saying, hey, we're going to be adding this. Are you interested in it? And then yes, because one of those kids saying yes will then lead to 3 or 4 most likely going, you know what, that looks fun, I'm going to do that. So that was definitely that. Esports is similar. All the team-based games definitely look at who works well together. Rocket League, who can communicate. Communication is key. Who can communicate, because there's a lot of kids. I know I sometimes don't like playing with a headset on, but you have to learn to adjust with it, and you're always constantly talking now. I have so many friends that mute me now when we're playing because I'm constantly talking the whole time, calling shots and doing things. So
yeah, awesome. When you talk more about differences in recruiting, have you seen a difference in the process when it comes to men versus women? Because esports is it's a co-ed sport at the collegiate level. What differences have you seen within that scope of things?
I really haven't seen a difference at all. There's a lot of female gamers out there, and I know that kind of shocks a lot of people as well, but there's a lot of, I call it undercover gamers or anything, the ones who play nonstop and are really good. And, they can be a girl, and that's fine.
Yep.
They can be a female, They can do whatever. But I don't see a difference. I see just the same number of male as female.
Yeah,
for example, Zia was a female from China, which is crazy when you really think about it. From, your first international recruit from China is going to be a female Chinese student. And it was just like, okay, so we went with it, and it's just been great.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I always say that everybody's a gamer. It doesn't matter if you play Candy Crush on your phone or if you're a hardcore Rocket League player or anything like that. Games don't discriminate, and there's tons of rosters nationwide that have both men and women in their starting rosters, and everybody's just as talented as the next. So it's a really cool, inclusive space to be in.
And that's why I love
awesome
esports.
to see. Yeah,
esports is great because it's co-ed. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Anyone can play, and it's amazing. If you have a disability, and it's just incredible. Like, everyone is allowed to come in, and it's a chance for some of the students who, some players who have never even thought, I'm not going to play in college. Okay, now you can. Like, now you can play, and you have a chance to go on, and it's really
absolutely cool. Okay, last question before we wrap up, and this is a big one. What is your relationship with the parents of the students that you're recruiting? How has that dynamic changed, or what are you kind of seeing when you're talking to mom and dad?
Starting out, I always told everybody, I'm not the snake oil salesman that this sounds like. I promise. This is not the Old West, and we're not feeding this huge line. This is serious. And I know I've had a lot of parents who were, okay, well, maybe let's see. And then before they know it, they're talking to their son, their daughter, saying, hey, I'm having a blast doing this. And, I've seen a lot changing. Parents, I'm always available for parents to call me. Sometimes it's, hey, let's talk about this, talk about that. But definitely being able to communicate with parents is key.
Yeah, absolutely.
For me, I've seen relationships improve drastically, just being available and alleviating some of the fears. Even if it's that first day they're dropping them off, and okay, are they going to stay in their dorm and play games all day? No, I promise they're not. They're going to be going to class. They're going to be doing everything. Because if they don't, I will get someone from the team who will go after them and tell them, you need to get to class right now. And that's what's great, is having that community built within that brotherhood, that sisterhood, just the community of your team working together. And even if it's them talking to the parents, hey, I'm going to be rooming with whoever this week. Okay, cool. That's really exciting. But like I said, the relationship has improved drastically.
Awesome. Yeah, it was always my favorite thing of when mom was all on board right away or dad was all on board right away and the other one was kind of hesitant, and to see that mind shift happen, it was so great. One of my favorite things ever is when I get a call from mom or dad saying, thank you so much. We love all the support he's getting. It's been great having him be on the team. It's all he talks about. And that was one of my favorite parts about being a coach. Very, very cool. Well, Kyle, thank you so much for being on the show today. It was a blast having you. If people want to ask you other questions or get a hold of you, or maybe they want to learn more about what you're doing at SSU, how can they get a hold of you? What are you doing next?
I will be doing a few other things, probably with Esports Toolbox in the future. If you need any current access to me, it's ktrapp@shawnee.edu. I'm sure we can put that somewhere in the podcast for you guys.
Yeah, it's on the screen right now.
Awesome,
yep.
awesome. That's my email. Feel free to just shoot me an email. We can talk about it, and then we can have a phone call or just even text to go over any questions or any concerns you have going forward. I'm really sad that I won't be at the NACE convention this year because I learned so much last year. It was probably one of the best experiences I've ever had.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. It's cool to hear that you have some other stuff cooking, and I'm sure it's going to be great watching and to see where Shawnee goes this year. Thanks again, Kyle. It was great having you on the show, and thank you for listening and tuning in to Esports Ed. School is in session, but the bell's about to ring, so we'll see you next time.